Hello, hello. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning to some of you. Good evening. We're excited to be back with another wonderful show. We hope for you. This is Isaac Vatopa, your host. But today is a blend. We welcome back to the waves the wonderful voice of Mr. Canon Phillips. We know what's been happening. We have extended our sympathies and he's gone through the ringer with this situation, but he's a resilient man and he's coming back to be with us to share his knowledge, to do whatever he can to resume. We have to still remember the past, but we have to continue life. So
Yeah.
we're given that opportunity to bring his perspective on that to the show and how he's doing. But we also want to say today is a blend. It's an integration of business talk and the OGs. As you guys know, the OGs was a gap filler, but hopefully it will be a continuation. We are at that stage where we need to be able to really come to the discourse with real rational, real, intelligent, real informative, and real guiding thoughts that we can share with our listeners and other people out there. And that's what we have always tried to do. But now the pressure is even more for us to do that, giving the vitriol, the language that's out there, the reaction with people, and just the hostility. So, we want to welcome to this show today a young voice. Mr. George Brownell, nicknamed Gabby, but also many of you on social media know him as the influencer King Jude Papi. He has a lot of skits that he provides. He has a lot of thoughts. He's an advocate. He's an entrepreneur. He's in the farming sector. Very progressive young man. So we'll hear his thoughts here. But first, let's give the stage to Akina. Akina, please provide your welcome and introductory thoughts.
Well, once again, welcome to everyone out there in Facebook land, the Blue App land, radio, television. We'll soon be back on the air here with Love FM in Monrovia. But again, Ava, thank you for creating the OGs as a filler to business talk. Been away for some time due to the loss of my wife, Violetta Phillips. The joy and the pride of my life, half of my life is in this woman who passed away on July 3rd of this year. And it's been a very, very traumatic experience, not only for me, but for the entire family, all the loved ones, family members, friends, relatives all across the U.S., back in Liberia as well. And so I just thought it fitting to kind of, deal with all of those issues, challenges, and everything else that I had to do, and also spend time to realign myself and realign the family, business, and everything else, as well as job and career and everything else, and just take some time off, unplug, and just realign, get plugged back in, focus on riding our bikes, right? So now we're all riding our bikes in this family, like our bicycles of life. We're pedaling to stay on, and we're pedaling to keep going. So, and then also in honor of Breast Cancer Month, this month of October, that's why I'm wearing her pink T-shirt here, as you can see, honoring the Queen, because it's Breast Cancer Month, and this is it's a plague. It's something that's really affecting women all across the world, not only in Liberia, and also they're doing some free breast cancer screening, both for sonograms and mammograms in Liberia, so in Monrovia, across the country. So, and for those here, please, get your breast cancer screening, get it done, and get it done as quickly as possible. This stuff is real. It's a silent killer. It creeps and creeps and creeps, and I am one of those who have been affected by it, and it's a traumatic experience. So it's good to be back, and welcome to you, Mr. George Brownell, to the show.
Thank you.
And like Abba said, today is a blend between business talk and the OGs. But again, the key thing is business, business, business. Liberia's rejuvenation, Liberia's realignment, private sector growth, bringing in the young, entrepreneurs and plugging them in and having a good, lively conversation only about business and the economic growth and prosperity of our country. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Akina, for that wonderful intro. Now we go to George. I gave a little bit of snippet about you, George, but now feel free to introduce yourself. Don't sell yourself short. Push
Oh,
as
man.
much as you get out there.
Okay. Well, my name is George Brownell. A lot of people know me as Gabby, and they also know me by my social media name, which is Cane Juice Poppy. I moved to Liberia in 2020, and honestly, it wasn't planned. But when I came over here, I told my friends that I would do my best to document as much as possible because I've heard stories of other people coming on ground and getting discouraged or not being able to find the information to keep them going. So I ended up using Instagram as this platform where I can showcase the realities of Liberia, but with a comedic spin. And recently I started doing these not commercials, but um, cartoons, basically to illustrate some of the nuances that we experience living over here without necessarily speaking directly to it, because we're in a sensitive country where people don't necessarily like to hear the truth. So I'm using the cartoons as a vehicle to push this agenda now where people can become a bit more aware of the realities in Liberia on the ground. Oh, and I'm educated. So I got my MBA from Widener University, business process management. And my undergrad is in accounting. So yeah, I try to use
Wonderful.
the MBA over here as far as making sure things are efficient as possible, but sometimes it's not possible.
Right. No, no, definitely. It's impressive, when we have this kind of mix. We've always said that the OGs will bring as much information to people, but also being the older generation want to integrate the young people and give them that platform to express their viewpoints, some of the solutions they offer, and all of that. So our focus today is what the challenges are, and you come from like you said, from a different perspective in that you just came and for it to be a mistake for you to be on the ground, you must have had some kind of solid landing ground because the library is not a mistake place that you can go to and say, "Oh, I will just stay here," Tell us that story. I mean, how did it happen for you to come, maybe just to document and stuff, and then ended up really staying and being so ingrained in the society today?
Okay, so I actually spoke about this story on episode 3 of the cartoon that I been pushing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and it was just a conversation with family members. I said I want to go to Liberia, I want to experience Liberia because I wasn't born here, and everybody discouraged me. Every single one of them discouraged me, except for my uncle. My uncle lives over here. I'm not going to say his name, but my uncle
Right.
lives here, and he actually encouraged me to come because he had a cassava processing center outside of Ganta, and my brain started going. So I was like, okay, when I go there, me and Unc will do some business. I'll help him as far as like shaping a narrative around what he's doing so that we can get this product into the U.S. And when I came, it wasn't anything like that. And what actually made me move, which once again it wasn't planned, I was building a house over here, and the contractor was eating my eyeball. So, so it wasn't a smooth landing. I mean, I believe most people believe that I had something going on here where I was just like, okay, I'll be comfortable once I get there. Nah, it wasn't a smooth landing whatsoever. I stayed with family out here. I'm not knocking anybody, but I bathed in a bucket 6 months. And at first, bathing in the bucket was cool for me because I was like, oh, I'm not used to bathing in the bucket in the U.S. Only for me to
Experience.
find out that my aunt who I was staying with, she wasn't warming the water for me. So every day I was taking these cold baths. So I couldn't wait to get from in her yard. Because later on I discovered, yeah, you're actually supposed to heat up the water and put it in the bucket before you bathe. So 6 months of cold baths, um, poor diet. And right now, I wouldn't say that all the way situated because there's a lot of things that I would love to have here on ground, but I know I'm in a much better space right now than I was when I first came out here. But it wasn't planned whatsoever. If it wasn't for that contract that eating my eyeball, I'd probably still be in Philly.
One wonderful story. Wonderful stories, folks. You see, so sometimes you don't plan to be in Liberia, but it happens, right? And I think that should be a goal for most people, even though we've seen instances where people question why should they come to Liberia. Now that you have been there for a little bit of time, can you answer that question for some people who may be wondering? I mean, I know we get to the challenges and everything, but just from a larger perspective, why
Yeah.
should somebody come to Liberia?
Um, Liberia needs more people who lived abroad and are used to structure. And I'm of the belief that a society isn't a society unless there's structure. And I feel like we lack that here in Liberia. And I know when most people have this conversation, the local Liberians may feel like, oh, we don't need you guys. I mean, not all of them have that sentiment, but they might feel like we're looking at it as, oh, we know more than you guys, so we need to be there. But I'm not even coming from an educational background. I'm just saying, as far as exposure to knowing how things should work in a society, we need more people coming back home just so that we can kind of grow our numbers and I guess shift the narrative, shift the mentality, the expectation, and the goalposts. Let's move the goalposts back up because right now I made a post on Facebook. I said the goalposts are so low, sometimes you don't even want to play. So
Because you get school, there's
I
nowhere to
mean,
get.
sure, but it's just it's not. If you have that exposure, and for example, if you know a building, a modern building looks like this, but now somebody else is building something that looks shabby to you, but you're in the minority, so it's not worth you getting involved. So it's like me when I do things, I try to do it based off of what I've seen from my travel and what I experienced growing up. I don't think it's healthy for people to move into a new environment and do as the Romans do per se. When it comes to infrastructure, we need bright minds and we need innovative visionaries to come back home and be on the ground. And being a visionary doesn't necessarily mean you have money, but you just have this idea that things should look better. You're able to utilize what you have and say, hey, let's do a better version of what we're already used to. And I don't see a lot of that happening. I see people sort of stuck in this cycle where it's the same mediocrity. And when more people come from home, no more strong people, let me put the emphasis on that, not people who want to come over here and compromise necessarily, but strong people that have standards, we will see a vast amount of change happening on ground in the country.
Elkina?
Yeah, George, thank you so much for the experience.
Is he breaking up to you too, Josh?
Yeah, he's breaking up.
Yeah. So we wait until he comes back and set up. But folks, like we said, we're talking about challenges, and he has shared a few. And then within the challenges, he mentioned infrastructure. He mentioned just the whole mindset, because mindset is a major challenge, the way people think, the way to go about doing things. So what are some of the key things that you think need to change, the practical things, and then we can discuss maybe how we can change some of those that can really help us build a shared vision and be able to move our country forward.
Um, I mean, we can start with the lack of information being shared. A lot of times when we come from on that side, it's difficult to navigate the terrain because people aren't willing to share information with us. So once again, that's why I mentioned my platform at the beginning. The whole purpose of the platform was to create a channel that people can get information, use my insight now and twist it how they see fit, but at least save money. A lot of people get discouraged when they come over here because it costs them maybe 4 or 5 times more than what it's supposed to cost to do anything simple. So you got to learn. You're making these mistakes, and these mistakes cost. And other people made the same mistake, but the people who made the mistakes aren't willing to share that with you.
And folks, that's a fact. Let Kino come in first, and then I will expand on that a little bit. Kino.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, apparently, I had a little technical difficulty here. Thank you so much again, George. Thank you so much for, like I said, I was saying graduating, and now you moved to a higher level. I think one of the challenges from my own experience, I would share my experience with you as well. And coming to Liberia, when you come from a structured, organized, planned, visionary, industrialized society like the US, when you catch that flight and you're flying to Liberia, you're not going forward in time. You've got to realize that you're flying back in time. Okay. So a lot of people think that, and when you even for Ava and myself, we're of the generation where we graduated from high school 1, 2, or 3 years out of high school, we came and we emigrated to the US. So when we got here, there was structure, there was, things were moving. We just found our ways. We got ourselves plugged in, went to school, worked, built careers, so forth and so on. You were born into this. You get my point. So when you buy a ticket and you get a flight, and when you start having that discussion with people, everybody will only give you recommendations and suggestions based on their own experience.
That's true.
You get my point. That's why when you said everybody was discouraging you, but they can't tell you why they're discouraging you. Because they're telling you, man, that place, nothing good is there. But again, for you, the key thing about you as a young Liberian, an American of Liberian descent, let me put it that way, okay, is that you're hungry. And that's what the country needs. The country needs the hunger of the young generation of Liberians who weren't born there. But they need that hunger that will be, that when you're in the US, you're not in a creative mode, if I can put it that way. Okay, because you go to school, you get your bachelor's, you get your master's, you go get a job, and when you get a job and you join that company, welcome Rufus. So we're now broadcasting live on Love FM all the way across Monrovia. Thank you, Rufus. So when you get a job here and you graduate from school, get a job, think about it. Tell me if I'm wrong. You get a job, you go in. This is your desk. This is your office. This is Joe. He will do your onboarding. This is your department. This is what you do. And you just follow a standard set of operating procedures. And that's all you do. That's all you do for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And there's you're not paid to be creative. You're not paid to be visionary. You're paid to carry out the vision, the plan, the structure that somebody else has already laid. And you're just on the assembly line. And you're just moving things down the line. Liberia offers a tremendous set of opportunities depending on whether your eye can see it. You get my point. So when people come back home, it depends on whether they have the ability to conceive in their mind. Because you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. You look with your eyes. So, like you said, you came back home with a certain set of ideas, right? You had already put some things in place. You were coming to your uncle who was in Ganta. He had a cassava process in place. So you were already thinking about, wow, I can get there, build something with him, and start moving that cassava back into the U.S. So you had already figured out, even before getting on the ground, value addition, right, Ava? Let's talk about that, right? The man already talked about value addition, value processing, packaging, getting it back to the U.S. He already identified it. The man already applied his MBA. Even before they, am I right or wrong, George? Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
You're right.
They were already in go mode. So by the time the man got there, he didn't know that he thought the plane was flying forward, not knowing the plane was flying in reverse. When he got there, he figured out there was no electricity first. He said, okay, now let's see how the packaging machine is going to work. When they gave him the bucket, the towel, and the cold water, he said, okay, without the water to wake you up every morning to face reality that, they know how water, bro. But again, it's been a journey, right? It's been a journey of you waking up, realigning, reassessing, and then plugging into your own creative skills. That's what Liberia offers. Liberia offers those who are able to create, to go deep inside, to use your experiences from the US, put it on the table and figure out how you can make something work in the country. And once you can navigate that jungle, you come out on the other side golden. You get my point? So if you're not creative, if you're not visionary, if you're not able to build relationships and make the proper connections, pack your things, get buy your return ticket, and hop back into, come back into a structured system.
Well,
But
we'll try to avoid that. So we'll try to build as much as we can to make sure that Gabby's story is a story that will be told for a long time.
for a
So,
long time, yeah.
Gabby, what's the situation right now? Because I know you as an advocate. I shared with you the concerns we have about the Chinese exploiting our resources, destroying our environment, and you made some significant efforts that which we shared and put out there. Where do you think we are at this stage now? Is there more enforcement from our EPA? Are they trying to really stop this stuff, or you just not sure where we are? The way you're rubbing your head now.
No, let me be frank. I will always have a level of bias towards what they're actually doing to fix the problem because I know the affected communities. What took place in number one in Grand Bassa, Madhouse, they haven't they haven't done anything there. They charged the company, I think it was $40,000. It was a $40,000 fine, but I don't know how they came up with that amount. I don't know what they used to quantify the damage. And a lot of people don't know that Liberia signed on to the Minamata Convention. I think it was in 2016, where they said as a country to the UN now that they would never allow people to use mercury to extract in our country. But the Chinese come here and do it freely. And you know where I have my farm at? It's about 2 hours and 30 minutes outside of Monrovia. And I always tell people that's just a hop, skip, and a jump. We don't know about the illegal mining that's going on in Grand Cru. We don't know about the illegal mining that's going on in Sino. I mean, recently somebody actually called me from Sino to say that the same company that left from around my area is now in Sino with the same representatives attempting to do the same thing again. So I'm not even going to say I don't believe that the government is doing enough. I don't believe that EPA is doing enough. And truth be told, maybe their hands are tied as well because, you know, sometimes we look at corruption surface level and we just say, yeah, you know, maybe the Chinese are there and they're bribing the elders and they're bribing the local government, but these things go high up. So sometimes when you can't make a stride, you got to be realistic about the environment that you're in. Business Insider came here and they did a documentary. I think as of now, the documentary has about 600,000 views on YouTube. Then another platform called African Stream, they came and did 3 documentaries. These were their last 3 documentaries on their platform, and they based all of them in Liberia. And the other one was about Firestone and workers being underpaid for tapping the rubber, right? But all these things go hand in hand when you think about mining licenses and concessions in general. The people don't necessarily benefit, and we don't have the right people in government advocating for us and pushing partnerships with these entities where it's not so much about the CSR, but at least let us get our just due. Let us at least benefit from what's coming out of the ground. Once again, I don't think the government has done enough, and I don't. On the flip side, Liberians aren't mad enough. Let me say that.
And the point he's making, folks, is straight up. Yeah, we have the Minamata Convention on Mercury. It is a global treaty to protect human health and the environment from the adverse effect of mercury. And mercury is really, really, how should I say, or corrosive, or poisonous, and can really affect the environment. And the different kind of releases, the anthropogenic releases of mercury in its life cycle, it really violates a lot of environmental, standards and everything like that. So to the extent that these kind of things, our government can really be responsible for the health of its citizens and ensuring the environment is, protected. It is incumbent upon them. So I don't see how they will find those people only 40,000. What about the restoration of the environment? I mean, is that something that they're working with to restore the environment to where it's supposed to be? So those are things that we can't just, yeah, I know you say, oh, we gotta probably adjust to how it is, but like you said again, people gotta be angry enough because
Yeah,
mercury will go into the water, into the land everywhere and affect even growing crops or affect, so many things. Yeah, Kino, go ahead. What do you want to
Yeah,
say?
one of the things you can do, George, I think, when you look at what my experience in Liberia has been this. One of the challenges we have, I've always said it, and I will always continue to say it. You can also either agree, disagree. Rufus is there. He's on the ground. He's in the media landscape, right? Education and competence. Those two things, a person can only be as competent as which is directly proportional, right, or related to his level of education and information he has on a specific issue. Mining in Liberia has always been something that be it government, be it we the people, be it the senators, the representatives, be it the public, whatever it is, every sector with every segment of the mining sector does not have all of the information, and people are not truly competent enough as it relates to the advancement in technology. You get my point, okay?
Yeah.
So if you truly understood the dangers and the poisonous nature of mercury, so these guys are not bringing one bottle of mercury and passing it through RIA. They're bringing it in by container load. So it's coming through the port of Monrovia. So you're inspecting a container that's bringing in mercury, a dangerous substance that's going to not only damage the environment, but poison an entire ecosystem. And then last time I checked, we're still we're ending the rainy season, right? The rainy season, right? Okay. And rainy season in Liberia is directly related to what? To erosion, right? That's why all the rivers in Liberia during the rainy season, all the rivers are what? They're red. Why? Because it's the runoff from all the forests and everywhere else. Everything runs into the river then down to the sea. So when you consider that the mining is being done in these areas all during the rainy season, what do you think is going to happen? All of that poison from the mercury being used to process the soil to get the gold out, which is part of the process, is going to run off into the rivers, kill all the streams, all the fish, contaminate everything. People are going to use that same ground to plant their food. And mercury just doesn't die off. It doesn't die off. It continues to reside in everything it connects itself to. And then the senators and representatives from those counties don't even understand that they're, them blinding themselves to it. They're actually killing their constituents. They're killing their constituents. Then they're going to go back to that very same county and campaign on that same poisonous ground and eat the food from the poisonous ground. So, the key is, again, one of the things you could do, George, is to continue to educate. We all have to play a role in educating the general public. Like you said, Liberians aren't mad enough. You can only be mad or get angry on something when you know more about it. You get my point. You see,
I agree with you, but let me tell you about the culture that I've witnessed there. You can go into a village with the intent of educating the people, but because you're not an arm of government, they take what you're saying for granted. So it's different when I go there now and hold a meeting with all the elders, all the people in the village, and say, hey, y'all need to stop drinking this water. Don't cook with it. Don't bathe in it. Versus when EPA comes there now with that government tags, that government vehicles, that yellow vest on, and they sit
the power,
and say the exact same
the representation of power and authority.
People only respect people that have power here. So while your heart can be in the right place as far as wanting to educate the people, you have to be realistic about their willingness to listen to what you're saying and the open-mindedness when you're not in government. And that's why I say they haven't taken the time to go there and educate these people on the issues. Because if I go there right now and I got my camera on, y'all will see children taking bath in that same exact water. And as we all know, mercury doesn't go anywhere. And what's scary is we don't know the long-lasting effects because we don't have the health care infrastructure here.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Symptoms that reflect mercury exposure. So if someone goes to the hospital from my area now and they're feeling sick, or they're saying, "Oh, my stomach is hurting, I'm losing weight, this, that, and the third," the clinician's first response will probably be, "Oh, it's typhoid. Oh, it's malaria."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So we just diagnose it because even the people in the, not all of them, but most of the people in the healthcare industry in these remote areas aren't educated on mercury. It's
You
not
are,
something
that's
that
exactly right. That's exactly
goes
right.
back to the
Yeah.
brain. Even when it's coming in, I mean, we don't have to just focus on the port. Immigration in general is detrimental to Liberia, because if you ask those same people in the village, why did y'all allow the Chinese people to come over here and do this? They will all tell you the same thing. Oh, we just assumed because they came from the airport that the government brought them. So they don't understand immigration policy. And I have yet to hear about immigration policy that will actually do background searches on the quality
Mm-hmm.
of people coming into our country
Coming
from
in.
China.
Yep.
Right
Yep.
now,
Yep.
I think we all can agree there's sort of like a cold war when it comes to mineral extraction in
Mm-hmm.
Africa
That's
between
exactly right.
the
Yep.
West
Yep.
and the Far East, right? And we play into this propaganda too when we allow China to come now and invest into our radio stations. So a lot of like even what we're speaking about, other stations won't carry this message the same way because China has invested in ELBC. These journalists get the opportunity to go to China, and because that's exposure for them, when they come back, they can see no wrong in what the Chinese are doing when they come here. They come into our country. But Howard French has a book called Africa, China, Second Continent. I read it when I was younger, and it kind of shift my perspective on Chinese people coming into the continent in the whole. It's not that China is sending the best of their best; they're sending criminals here.
No,
This
that's a fact. That's a fact. They take people for prison and send them.
we Liberians,
Yeah.
this is the funny part. We Liberians don't like our deportees, right? So if somebody is deported from the US, they get treated horribly when they get here in Liberia. But here comes a Chinese man who's an ex-criminal, probably some part of some type of criminal syndicate, and he's in your village with three excavators. You're not asking how he got the money for the excavators. Then I set up a campsite in less than 3 weeks, and they made you the same old promises. Oh, we're gonna do a school, we're gonna do a clinic, we're gonna do a road. But by the time they get what they need, they out of there.
They're gone.
Y'all don't see them again.
Let me let's ask Rufus. Rufus, you're in the media landscape there. I mean, this is something I think you guys need to take on. Somebody just made a comment. Titus Carteret Williams, right? So one of the points I did when I was explaining about the runoff of the water, that mercury also gets into the groundwater, the aquifer in the groundwater. So it will also affect all the wells, all the wells all the wells that the people depend on to draw water. And I mean, what are you hearing in the media landscape when it comes to mining? Not so much in the mining concessions. We're not talking about the mining concessions here. Because what you will hear about, right? Am I correct or wrong, right, George? You only hear about the mining concessions, right? But you don't hear about the processes, the chemicals, that are highly regulated in the developed world because they have very, very toxic, makeup, and they have a very adverse effect on the population. So those chemicals are controlled in the developed world. But again, you hear about the mining concession, but nobody hears about, the processes, the chemicals, and the things that are used that will have a very, very long-term adverse effect on the population. What are you hearing, Rufus? Let's get your way in. We want you to be part of this thing here today.
It's quite interesting. Thanks again that we are back to educate our people on a lot of things that the people do know and some do not know, but it's important that we stress on these issues. Basically, when it comes to the mining sector in Liberia, there is a daunting task for our mine and energy ministry that needs to be very keen when it comes to these concessionaires and people who are involved with the mining sector. Because, mind you, what the guys normally do here is they fight to get a lesson that will give them the authority to go and mine, but they leave the scope of the mining and go beyond. And there's no monitoring and evaluation carried out by the lands and mines. They just leave the people. They go about doing, like the last time I was in Bapolu, there was this company that was doing this bow and hoe, creating wells and pumps for people. But it was interesting to know that the equipment the people carried there was even beyond the bow and hoe. They were mining golds. What they would do, they would carry on the normal operation during the day, where people will see visibly, but in the evening hours, the night hours is when they carry on the real mining of gold and all the
The
stuff.
oil,
So
they count
the
all the lights and everything.
employees, the Nigerian employees will work in the day, while you have the foreigners doing the major jobs, the mining in the night. And overnight, you see cars, you even have choppers and all the kind of stuff coming to take away those
Yeah. Extract.
minerals. Yeah, and nothing is being done about that. People in authority, those guys that are assigned in those areas to keep eyes on these people, come on, man. The man is making $150 as a take-home salary, and
For the whole
somebody that
month.
is somebody who's illegally mining, see him say, look, every month or every week I give you a 3,000 or 4,000 plus. What do you think that guy would do? The issue of
Turn the other way.
nationalism and patriotism is no longer in our work ethics. We look at what we can gain for ourselves, but not looking at the trickle down effect. Even the guys who are carrying on the same mining, like the rock crusher area, there's a community along the highway there. The entire community is at risk. The entire community, the people, livelihood, the water, everything damaged.
Hey,
They have spoken about this thing.
Rufus, can I come in on that
Nothing.
specific community?
Yeah.
That community, Benstown. They've been fighting that Chinese entity for the past 3-4 years, and the Chinese have blatantly told them, we have more money, we have your representatives and your senators in our pocket. Is nothing y'all can do about it. But these people are literally blasting dynamite to the rock crusher area in Marshall, Benstown community. They blasting dynamite at least 3 times a week in their schools in that area. Every single house in that area has a crack
Or the
foundation.
foundation. Yep,
And
the
the
foundation.
government has done nothing to assist the people there, and they've been pushing against this company for years.
And our
So,
leaders are not doing anything about it.
yeah, not on a side issue, but I just want to do something here. The Ava, if you just go, I'm going to send you a link, and we can kind of talk about it a little bit here.
Okay.
You can share it. I'm going to put it on your WhatsApp. It has to do, I will put it on the business talk group. You can take it from there. Just click it. But it talks about the, I just want to make a little connection. In Ghana, they call it artisanal mining, right? Surface mining, right? Okay.
Yes, artisanal mining.
Artisanal mining. So that link there kind of points out to what the Ghanaian government, the new incoming, the new government that came into Ghana, His Excellency President John Mahama. That's one of the things that is shut down, stopped there. Why? Because of the ecological damages to the rivers, the streams, the contamination, the soil, the farms, everything got damaged. When you click on that link, it will give you or show you, give you an idea.
You're talking about the AI expedition, right?
Yes. What it is. And they talk about, the water pollution, the contamination, the health risks, the ecosystem damage, the land degradation. Yes. So if the Ghanaians could shut this thing down because of the chemical, this thing has destroyed Ghana so bad.
But I think I did a post. They expelled like about 3,000 Chinese, and most of them are migrating to Liberia.
That's exactly right. And guess where they moved to?
Liberia.
There you go.
I said I in a post a while ago. And if our EPA and our Ministry of Lands and Mines do not do this, and gold is hot, man, people. The price of gold is
just top $4,100 for the first time in history.
Yes.
Am I right? Am I right, George? Right? How about gold just topped $4,100 for the first time in history, in world history. An ounce of gold. $4,100 US. So the anticipation is all of these guys would move to where their weak laws or non-existing rules and laws. Go ahead, Abba.
No, I was sharing your point about the fact that it's at 4,000. Just the other day when I was posting about it, and I shared some videos
Mm-hmm.
about these guys who the different mining operations and how they operate in Liberia as a huge opportunity, But I mean, the price of gold today is like $4,000. It was that 3,500 then.
4,100. 4,100.
So yeah, so different platforms they have different prices, but yeah, but it's 4,000 plus period, and that's
Mm-hmm.
significant. That milestone is huge. So the drive for gold, the gold rush will be much more. And I mean, people
Hmm.
do whatever, like he said, people get there, they come with a class C license, just to
Mm-hmm.
do artisanal mining, but then they bring
Yeah.
yellow machines in that they're not
Yeah.
supposed to bring in. They destroy the environment, they just try to extract as much as they can, as fast as they can. And then, like he said, they leave the town helpless, they leave the town there with not much to do. I mean, I went to Weird I was shocked. The Weird I used to be but when I was small in the diamond, I used to be there to go to Weird now and see what it is. It's like, wow. So that's probably the future of a lot of different towns and cities. And that will put a pressure on the urban areas because at some point that place will be
That's it.
inhabitable for
That's
people
it.
to live there.
For
And then they
people
will
to live there.
migrate into a situation that we can't contain. Monrovia
Yes.
was built for 200, 300,000 people. Now we got 1.2, 1.3 million people there. And the expansion of the infrastructure is not catching up to the
Exactly.
population that's there. So
Population
the
growth. That's
huge
exactly
slum
right.
community that in Monrovia not easy. I mean, we do area service, and you look at Matadi, you look at Jalatown, you look at all along the Mesurado River, people are dumping there to harden it for them to build houses on it.
So build houses there. Yeah. They got land.
And
Yeah.
it's government needs to step up with that though. That's a serious problem, both from the healthcare perspective, environmental perspective, and the economic perspective that's affecting us. So, you
Yeah,
know,
let me just chime in. If you go further down on that link and you click on where it says deep dive or deeper dive into AI, there's a point there I want to kind of highlight as well. When what George brought up. If you go further down, you have to click on deeper dive, and then you come down to where it says water. Yeah, you see there, the first point: mercury and cyanide pot up pollution. Yeah, contamination from mercury and cyanide. And the thing is, it says miners often use toxic chemicals such as mercury to extract gold and cyanide in processing, which are then discharged untreated into nearby rivers and streams. These heavy metals are extremely dangerous, exceeding WHO UN, right? Permissible limits in many water samples and posing a serious threat to human life and aquatic life. Key point here: mercury can remain in the water for up to 1,000 years.
wow.
Yes.
Let
Yeah.
me let me come in, man.
Go ahead.
While we
Go
were
ahead.
talking, I was just thinking, government plays a huge role in actually desensitizing the public to these issues because I know people might disagree with me, but our people are for sale in a sense where government will rather align themselves with the small good that the Chinese is doing rather than exposing all of this bad. If you have a group of individuals sending their citizens into your country and they're dumping this chemical into your waterway system that can't remove itself for over 1,000 years, think about us in the US, right? When you're living in America, if there's mercury exposure to fish, that comes out on a news channel and they tell you don't buy this fish. This fish, we recorded that this fish has high amounts of mercury in it. We don't even have that in Liberia. We don't truly know what's killing our people because the area around my farm it dumps into the Mechlin. I seen those guys on the Mechlin, like you can literally see where the Mechlin starts. But I seen those guys on the Mechlin with a boat dragging the sand from underneath there, just a few feet away from where they were emptying out the mercury into the other waterway system.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, so
and then somebody going to buy that sand to build their house, to make the blocks
not
to
even
build their
by the
house.
sand, but somebody will go fishing and bring this contaminated fish because the
Fish
Chinese people
to the
are
market.
fighting the individuals in the village for them not to eat the fish after they started mining. They got in physical altercations with the people in Madhouse Village. So imagine the people that are a few miles down the river who have no idea about what's going on over there. They're still eating the fish. They're still catching it, drying it, bringing it to town to sell. We don't truly know what's harming the people here in Liberia because there's a lack of transparency. There's no infrastructure, and once again, our government officials, instead of them having this sense of pride and nationalism, they rather sell us for cheap rather than blow the whistle and say, hey, let's bring in some bright minds so that we can kind of like curb this issue that we're having and move forward down the right trajectory. That's how I see it.
Thank you. So that's just one aspect. Now, we've been talking about challenges, and at the end of the day, the the regular man, the everyday man, is
Mhm.
seriously challenged in Liberia. We know that. Um, there's also the issue of change. How are things moving? Is it too slow? Is it not at all? Is it changing motion? For you on the ground, what's your perspective on change that can really impact people?
I thought about this for a few hours after we spoke last night, and truthfully speaking, I think it's human nature for people to want to see change overnight, right? And then for us who've been exposed to better, which is a majority of us, because everybody has a telephone, so you can see how people are living in other countries. There's just there's an expectation for more to be done, but
Right.
then there's this realization where Liberians aren't willing to suffer. They aren't willing to sacrifice anything for this heaven that they assume
Real
to be.
change to happen, then environment to
They
come.
don't want to. They don't want to suffer. They don't want to stand for anything. So I don't understand why they feel like that. I can understand why I feel like that because as a man, I'm willing to die behind a cause. You understand? Like nobody can shut me up if I feel like something is wrong. I'm willing to stand up for it. You can't pay me to shut up, right? I'm not for sale. But if we're talking about a group of individuals who don't like to sacrifice, they are for sale. Yeah, their expectation might be a bit different from mine. I always believe that our government can do more because we have so many bright minds in the diaspora that are willing to help. But every time I see a government created, I don't necessarily see the diaspora included in that. And not saying that they should be the end all be all, but I don't see Liberians on that side participating in government and bringing their expertise. The global South in general has a lack of expertise when it comes to knowing how to do things. So is natural for these countries to want to partner with an India, to want to partner with a China, but we have the right human resources in the diaspora that we don't ever tap into. And I feel like if we did do that, we could see faster change.
So
But
how will you
huh?
interpret the recent diaspora conference and the president
Very good
affirming
question.
that
Very good question. Yeah.
he wants the diaspora to be involved, compared with maybe the actuality of the gatekeepers or other people on the ground who hold access to these different things where diasporans could be really spread out and more involved, limiting them. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Let me tell you something. I wasn't at the convention, obviously, and I received mixed reviews, right? So some gentlemen my age said it was a waste of time, but then other people who participated directly in the development of the actual convention said that it was okay. And I want to point something out. We have this issue in Liberia where people have a problem until they're in proximity to power, right? So so we get these biased judgments where the same individual who might say, no, that's nonsense. Once they get the opportunity to shake the man's hand now, it turns into, oh, he's trying his best. For me, if they truly want to include the diaspora, why don't they do a presidential order allowing people in the diaspora to vote immediately? That could change a lot. Allow us the luxury of voting from abroad, and for us to hold certain government positions, even if we're born on that side. That would show me a lot. And
That the position part is already built in into the new law. The new
it is okay.
Yes, in terms of what position, I think there's like 5 ministerial positions in the presidency that people with U.S. citizenship can't hold, but everything else,
Only
external citizenship. But the key point you're talking about in terms
go
of
with the
voting,
votes.
that's a right that I think really should have been. We've been advocating it for a long time for the diaspora to actually participate in the elections in a practical way, remotely, and be able to vote. It should not be that difficult. There's numerous countries that allow their diaspora citizens to vote. There are numerous platforms that have been built to facilitate that. So, it should be something that should be looked at for real, seriously. Hopefully, that's part of the entire diaspora plan that they have. But that should be something that happens. Um,
Yeah, but
you want go ahead, Kino, and I can come back on my
yeah,
perspective.
no, the couple of things. I've been listening to what George was saying. Very good point on the diaspora conference. I did not participate. I did not visit. I heard, I watched some of it on YouTube. Listened to some of the presentations on some of the segments and things like that. I'm not going to criticize, condemn, or castigate. I did not participate in setting it up, but what in my view is always missing is this thing behind me, the role of energy in our country to play a major role in the industrialization of the country, or the economy. You talk about the global south. Diasporans are not going to come. More diasporans do not want to come home to Liberia to go into government. More diasporans want to come home to participate in the building of the private sector that will lead to what? The economic transformation, wealth creation that will ultimately transform politics in the country. That's the equation. That's the equation. So I was taken aback when I listened to all the different, segments and things like that. I didn't hear anything meaningful, anything thought provoking. I didn't hear anything about investment in alternative energy, solar for the different counties to decentralize the power grid, to attract diasporans back to their counties. I'm from Magidi. My father's from Lofa. This now Ava, he's from River says, people want to go back into their communities and invest, because private investment capital, that's where you can make the most meaningful transformation. You can make better decisions. You can act faster. You look at what you're doing in your own little private sector thing. Once you get your business registration and everything else from government, you're moving at your own pace. You're making do with whatever systems are in place, power, telecommunications, data, whatever the case is, working to train 2, 3, or 4 people to work with you, work for you, based on your scale and your competence and everything else. The private sector is what's going to grow and transform the country. The private sector is what's going to bring value addition to our natural resources. I was listening to someone talk about partnership with mining companies to do value addition in the country. You don't even have enough power to run Monrovia. You're talking about building a steel plant. Do you know how much power you need to build a steel mill, or to run a blast furnace, to make steel from iron ore? Iron ore is just one component or one ingredient. Steel is an alloy. So you're going to import more things to make the steel. Then where are you going to sell it? You don't even have enough power to industrialize the economy. So sometimes our people talk and they put the cart before the horse, and they speak from a position of incompetence and a lot, very little understanding. And I guess it gives them, points to get on the air and things like that. The next thing is when I think we in the diaspora, I think one of the challenges we have is we're not sharing experiences. We haven't yet built a very good network to exchange information. That's where the challenge lies, in my view.
And that's the sad part. Just to touch on that, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ava.
You have had a communication platform out of for a while, but Liberians have not gravitated to it. It seems that most of us just enjoy the TikTok or the Instagram or the Facebook, as opposed to a substantive platform that can really get professionals to network, to talk about the kind of thing. How do we collectively own a gold mine as Liberians? How do we a gold concession? How do we constructively as Liberians bring increased energy to the country for it to be into the get into the grid and for more people to use it for us to do? So how do we really build that EU, US level a product packaging certification plant that can really get Liberian products out there? How do we scale up in terms of these different agricultural efforts that are, I mean, we are naturally advantageous for us to do butter pear, to do and what they call avocado over here, to do cassava with the numerous cassava products. You talk about cassava processing. The cassava sector has not been able to get off its feet. It has not. Then you talk about the whole diaspora conference with in terms of electricity. There was nothing about technology at
That's
that
exactly
conference.
right.
You
Yeah.
know, and technology is the great equalizer, the one that can really
That
leapfrog us to the next level in participation. And then, though the president is talking about, this whole digital transformation, the whole structure of digital transformation is flawed because the strategy is not evident. The Liberian participation is not there. Most of the people in the World Bank, they probably already have partners external that they will bring in. We just wrote a letter to the head of the World Bank, to look at all of those things because they are basically icing out Liberian companies. They are asking for bid security of 50,000 or 60,000 for projects. They are asking people to have done those projects 3 times, but we don't even have one example of those projects. And that's not how software development is. You don't need to have built something before you can demonstrate the ability to build something. So that perspective is just disadvantaged towards the Liberian business people, the Liberian entrepreneurs. And we just hope that this conference, the way it was set up and everything, and the different criticisms and the positive reviews, they can integrate all of those, that the next conference can be more productive. Like somebody said, it was a showcase for Liberian government officials. The government doesn't have to prove that it's doing X, Y, Z. It needs to articulate it. Yes, it needs to market itself and share with people what they're doing. But at the end of the day, it should be facilitating for the people on the ground and the people on the diaspora, really pushing that integration that Liberians can build critical mass around different kind of opportunities, really give us heads up on what's coming and how we can participate.
Yes,
But this is
and
about, yeah, go ahead.
and before we jump to George, again, George, you and Ava, the two guys with the MBA. I only have a bachelor's in engineering, right, with my years of experience. One of the challenges we look at, we don't look at Liberia from the area we don't look at our economy in segments. You get my point? Because if you look at it from this in a segmental way, then you will be able to attack it with the right plan and with the right strategy. You take the agriculture sector. Ava and I will always talk about this, right? Agriculture is a big word. Then you got to divide it into what? Into cash crops and non-cash crops. Am I right, Ava? Right? Okay.
You're 100% right, and I'm smiling because some kind of thunder I got. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, if you're coming to do a diaspora conference, then what in my view, as a business development specialist, right, you will segment the economy into segments, or look at it from segment view. Then what you want to do, you want to attract Liberian diaspora investors into each of those segments. Not everybody is attracted to agriculture. Some people are attracted to mining. Then do the mining set aside, right? How about we did a show about the Liberianization and small mining sector. So you do the education sector, you do the tourism sector. So when Liberians are coming, they can sign up not just for the conference, but for the various segments of the economy. And then you have people who will be teaching, educating about those segments, and then you attract those diaspora investors to that specific segment. And then that segment can talk about the opportunities in each of the various counties. You get my point? You follow what I'm saying? Because that makes it easier. It makes it so much easier for Liberians to attach themselves to something that attracts them, and they can pool their money as a Liberian organization. Let's just say the Riverside County Community Organization in the U.S. They can pool their money and say, you know what? Let's invest in the tourism sector in Riverside, or or let's invest in the mining sector in Riverside. The Bapolu County Association in America, they can pool their money and say, you know what, let's invest in A, Y, X, Y, Z, or ABC, the energy sector. Let's build a solar farm, 50, 100 kilowatt or 250 kilowatt or 1 megawatt. Let's pool our investors and let's do it in our area. But when you do something in such a general format, where can people attract themselves to? They really cannot attract themselves to something because it's too general in nature. And you bring everybody together and then you don't have a plan or a strategy to really attract them. Last but not least, again, energy again is something that like I said, until we get this right, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to attract the diaspora. We're only going to attract all of these guys coming from China or wherever. I don't want to bash the Chinese, but the Chinese can only do in Liberia what we Liberians allow them to do. The Chinese are only doing, these people are only doing in our country to us what we allow them to do. So again, I think if we, the diasporas, can really organize ourselves around the telecommunication technology sector, around the fintech sector, around the energy sector, around value addition in the agriculture sector, I think those things will be very, very attractive. And then we can pool our money, organize plans strategically, work with people like George who are on the ground, right? That's the other thing we Liberians don't do. We don't build relationships. Everybody wants to do it by themselves. Every man wants to go in there and do his own thing. We need to learn to build relationships, establish relationships, and then pool our resources. Whoever is closest can take the baton and run and get it done. At the end of the day, you don't give the trophy to a player. You give it to a team. The team wins the game. That's the key. So go ahead, Abba.
Go ahead. No, I wanted George to come in, and before we shift to the bread and butter issues, so to just kind of close up on this piece we're talking about at a larger scale, but I wanted to just say your thought on segmenting the economy from a sectoral perspective is very critical, because a lot of analysis we do, and this is a little bit of economics, come from a one sector growth model, a whole growth model by Solo Swan, right? But if we look at the split up the economy into the modern economy, and then the traditional economy, where the modern there's some technology and services, the traditional just basically base agriculture. And then when we expand that base agriculture again, the two sectors, the traditional, the subsistence side, and then the kind of mechanized side of the sector, they will be able to really analyze it and provide more information. That's one of the things I'm looking to study, to see how we can break this down and be able to make some strong recommendations to government, because some of the anecdotal or based on other people's data of how things supposed to be, representation of government probably has not caught on. But if we can actually use our own Liberian data, run the necessary tests, the necessary regressions, and do the analysis and be able to provide some answers as to why some things are happening, and if certain things change, certain impact will happen, I think it will help us better. So George, you want to close on this before we touch on the bread and butter and some of the issues that how people's lives are still the same, even though sometimes you can shift the blame to themselves?
Now, as far as desegmenting, I agree with everything Mr. Phillips said, and we should even take it a step further. Decentralize the entire government, be county focused, and see what we can turn out of it. And then we take a pilot from each county, the one that works the best, then we roll it out to the rest of the country. So I agree with him.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So recently, the vice president was part of a committee that were analyzing prices, and I believe they got a reduction in the price of rice, and I think the price of corn or something else. How has that, you think, impacted the people in terms of, because for the people at a certain level, every dollar counts, every dollar is impactful. So if they're saving $3 on rice, is that something that people are appreciating from government, or is it's still the same, nothing happened?
I try not to depend on rice too much while I'm over here. So I do my best to keep a diverse diet while I'm in Liberia, but that's something I have to ask the people who work for me. Um, I pay them on time, so I've never heard them actually complain about rice. And every time the topic of rice comes up, it's actually upsetting to me because I always think about the rice rise. Even though I wasn't alive, I always think like, how are we as a nation still stuck on this topic of rice prices, and when are we going to get over that? So I usually see it as somewhat virtue signaling because when things are going bad, government always finds a way to come out and say, "But rice is cheaper," and that kind of diverts attention onto the rice price. So, but I don't eat rice every day. I'm
Okay.
gonna ask the people who work for me, but I don't think it's a big deal. And then I don't know how that reflects in these remote areas. I think I still bought rice at the regular price about a week ago for my people on the farm. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
So
You got people working for you, and you the one purchasing the rice. They're not concerned about a $3 change. But I don't think there's actually a $3 change here. But somebody can correct me.
no, I don't think it reached $2. But I mean, the cumulative impact of the rice and the other prices that were adjusted may have been. But somebody asked about your uncle's cassava processing operation. Or was it just a lot that you saw, or
Nah,
is
so my uncle has this cassava in the store. Well, he was one of the first that I've seen doing it. It was a dry cassava, and then he was selling gari, but it was called Amanda Gari. So I know Stop and Shop had it, and Harbell Supermarket also carried it. But it never made its way into the U.S. And there's a lot of there's a lot of issue with our culture of paying people over here, and I didn't get into the details of that when I was telling the story about me and my uncle. Sometimes you'll have people who run factories, or they'll have these projects going on in the bush, but they don't necessarily pay the people properly. So that's something that I noticed when I first came on ground, and I kind of based everything that I did around that, saying that the day I got the opportunity to employ people, I would try to be a bit more fair as far as paying them on time and giving them the proper wages, regardless of the circumstance. So, I mean, I'm taking the risk, and individuals like that, maybe they move that type of way just because they've been here on the ground longer and they know the output of the people is not necessarily consistent, but I just kind of base my own business around paying my people on time.
so is there not necessarily a shortage, but is there a tendency that people don't want to do the hard work required with farming? Because I know I'm in some of the different, farming groups chat room, whether it's the poultry, the cassava, or the other, vegetable crops, or even tree crops. But people complain that people don't really want to work. They can't find good labor. Do you find that as well?
But there's a lack of know-how. We assume. Let me not say we. I'll just give my own personal story. When you're coming from the diaspora and you say I want to get into farming, and you don't have an agriculture background outside of your old mom's backyard garden wherever y'all live, right? You have to depend on other people. The people that you depending on don't know how to be efficient and effective with your money because they don't care about where you're taking your money from. Then also you got to realize that we're in a country that doesn't prioritize mechanized farming. At least at the time it didn't. So when I got into farming, people told me, "Oh, you can't clear your land with the machines because you would damage the topsoil. You have to clear it by hand." So I spent a lot of money just clearing my farm, and it's still not aesthetically pleasing because I have stomps all over the farm. So I had to spend additional money to de-stomp. And then some people will even tell you, it'll rot itself out. Don't worry about it. But I know how a farm is supposed to look. I want the farm to look a certain type of way when I'm on it. But if you get into the practice of manually, I mean, this depending on this manual labor, I believe you spend more money, and then the know-how is in there. So someone might recommend a farm manager to you and say, "Oh, I know so and so from this place, and he can help you. He can do this, that, and the third." And that guy doesn't know anything about farming. He never went to school for farming. Maybe his father was a farmer, or he had a little small farm in his village that he's coming from. My farm manager that I had, I will put his name out there because I don't want anybody else to hire him. It was a man by the name of Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson worked for me for 2.5 years. I never knew that this man couldn't read and write. Every time we had an employee meeting, he would show up with a pen and a pad and act like he was writing things down. That man ate thousands of dollars from me. and I didn't benefit. I
Wait,
didn't benefit.
Hang on, Brownell. Hang on. Ava, you're gonna really enjoy this. So here it is. The guy comes back to Liberia, a developing country, and he's got an MBA. And the interview he conducted, he did not figure out from the interview the guy couldn't read nor write. Now,
no, you cannot. No. You cannot do that from an interview. Stop.
Wait. My point here is the guy who came off the plane with the bag of money had the MBA and the bachelor from one of the most advanced and developed country in the world. The man he hired can't even spell USA. But the guy came into the meeting with the pen and the paper, crossed his leg, and presented himself that the guy with the MBA could not even figure out that the guy couldn't read nor write for 2.5 years.
It's a referral system here, right? It's a referral system here. So this is the mistake we make as Liberians, right? You will ask somebody for a referral who never knows what you're trying to do. That's where the first problem comes in. It's not about me not including a literacy test during the interview. It's the fact that I asked somebody for help who never did what I want to imagine. I got 150 acres. The first time I told anybody here, I said, "Yo, I want to clear all of my land." The first thing they told me, "You can't clear all that land at the same time, man. Clear 15 acres, and that's it. You working, you live 15 acres." So I said, "No, I won't work the entire 150. How much will it cost?" That was my first mistake because it made me look like a money man, right?
But you know the good thing about everything you say, Brownell, is that you don't look like what you've been through. That's the good thing.
No. Hold on. Let me make you laugh. Just yesterday, somebody messaged me on Instagram and they said, "Oh, you know, you really inspire us to come back home. We know you go through things, but you don't wear it. You don't wear your trauma." And I told the person, I said, "Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to leave from this place. But because y'all following me on Instagram, I know if I leave Liberia, nobody from the diaspora will come here. I promise you that much." Everybody is saying Gabby couldn't make it there after he did all of that.
So right now, government should have an interest in you. Government should hold you up.
I'm sacrificing myself so other Liberians can come home, and I'm giving y'all the playbook. So when you come in here, you want to do farming, I beg you bring somebody who's been educated in agriculture from one of the universities, or you bring somebody from outside.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Not allow somebody to refer a worker to you, because look, this is that mindset. I know somebody that need help. Let me put them in position there because it will be paying them. I need something.
Exactly right.
You will see them do it. They will come to your farm and say, "Oh, Johnson, I don't know who put your head. You ain't got nothing for me." So they're not working in your best interest. So my dad taught me something before I came to Liberia, and he said, when you're doing business, always go into business believing that the person is trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And I did not practice that when I first came to Liberia. So I took many losses. I took many. And this is country for you to think like that.
What I would do is I would throw in here something that Alva and myself we talked about when we started our program called Business Talk. And today, for those who are just joining, we're doing a combined show of Business Talk and the OGs. One of the advice I would give you, Brownell, is similar to what your father told you. Business decisions, make them with your head, keep them out of your heart. Business decisions, keep them out of your heart, keep them in your head. It's better for you to hire the agronomist graduate from either Cottonton or LU or from BWI, whatever the case is, and put them on your farm and teach them give them your vision and let them take your vision and apply it to what they were taught in school to produce the results you need. You get my point? Yeah. That's what I would add on that.
Okay. So now,
I don't want to make it seem like I'm moving around a lot while we're doing our podcast.
No, but you are. You got stuff to do. You can share with us what you got to do today.
Yeah.
I got to run somewhere, so I'm going to log in from in the car, and I'll still be on here. So I'm just letting y'all know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Brownell
that's
is a
fine. Yeah,
busy
log in
guy.
when you get in the car. Log in when you get in the car. Well, how
Yeah.
about
So,
next week? Next week, while we're talking on this, but next week, I want to bring on while he's getting in the car. Next week on the combined show or on Business Talk, I invited as it relates to agriculture. And I invited my older brother, Joseph Siafa Phillips,
okay.
who's a rubber man. And you know, rubber is an integral part of Liberia's history, right? Rubber is a very important part of the history of Liberia. Rubber is a major thing in the country's economy. How are the Liberian farmers benefiting from rubber? The president just passed an executive order on no exporting unprocessed rubber, and then also setting a price on the price of rubber. Uh, you know, what does this do for the Liberian economy, the Liberian rubber growers? Why, the role of the banks, the private sector in rubber, and all of that. He will be talking about it next week. Rufus will do the flyer. We'll get it up so that people can participate in it because next year makes Firestone 100 years in Liberia. Firestone came to Liberia in 1926. So again, agriculture from the rubber perspective, the role of rubber would bring somebody who's worked. We were all born and raised in Firestone. He worked for Firestone. Our father worked for Firestone. He worked in a very strategic role in several different positions. He would explain that, give us the height, the width, the depth, the length of rubber in the economy. So we'll talk about that next week. I don't want to put it out there so people
No,
can be ready for that.
that's wonderful. We need to do that. We need to do that. We need to really bring and hopefully after that we can find somebody who's in the gold sector, who's been
In the
involved.
gold sector,
How
yes,
how is it
yes,
for
yes, yes.
Liberians, because there's just so many stories to tell, so much information to give out. And then for me, a lot of times it's about how all these resources have not really benefited us as a country. And those are things that we hope, it will change eventually. Um, so you are involved in some other things, George. So you talked about the documentary. What else is going on?
So we got the documentary, we got the farm. I have a pineapple farm in Grand Bassa. We're growing cocoa, pineapple, oil palm, and coconuts. And my actual goal is to reopen this soap company that I had when I first moved to Liberia, but I'm going to be in full charge of my supply chain.
And
Um,
that's critical. How do you expect to be in supply chain that needs multiple inputs? Or
so,
soap is just like a two-dimensional product?
yeah, so the ingredients that I have, I'm actually growing it on a farm. So it's about a 5 to 6 year plan. I also have I have moringa trees there too. So my goal is to process the oil in house and handcraft the soap by hand. Put the story behind it that I created when I first came out here, and send it to the U.S. and sell it online.
All right. But you make it sound simple, right? Send it to the US. But how do we how do we get this organized process where FDA certification is passed, EU standards, we are
So
able to accommodate it? Where are we in that landscape
I,
for packaged
I
product?
give the listeners some game when it comes to soap. If your soap is organic, you don't need FDA clearance to import
Okay.
it into the
That's
U.S.
good.
Yeah. So long you got that 100% organic. You're not saying that it's a medicinal bar or anything like that.
Yeah.
They don't check it when you send it into the U.S.
Wonderful. So,
So okay.
so
So
for those
so
interested, you'll take notes. The man is sharing knowledge right here.
I'm giving y'all game, but I'm not telling y'all to copy my plan now because Liberians are good for that. No, we
no,
don't need a million soap makers.
For a
no.
lot,
You see, one of the things I like about the young man here, George, is what we've always been talking about. Do your homework. Do your homework. When you do your homework and you spend time and you invest in research and development, you spend your time in educating yourself in your specific sector, then you can become, the SME, the subject matter expert. He's talking about his own supply chain. Don't forget that there's a domestic market for that soap as well, because when you consider how much soap is imported into Liberia, Okay, that's a market right there to displace. If you can get it at the right, I mean, if you're doing local manufacturing, that means your cost of production should be significantly less. Okay,
But
the
let
only
me let me
thing, the only,
let me come in,
the,
Mr. Phillips. The
go
issue
ahead.
with selling it locally is that you have to compete with the oil palm company that also produces soap. And they're also the reason why the cost of caustic has gone up in Liberia. So when I
Mhm,
first did
mhm,
this in 2020, a bag of caustic, I think either 25 or 50 kg was only $40. Right now, it's
mhm,
hard to even find it on the market if you can find it, and if you do, it's extremely expensive. So they disincentivize local Liberians from making local soap, and the ingredients are here, meaning you can make a strict all palm based soap for cheap. But if you can't find that caustic, it's going to make it difficult for you to compete with
mhm.
I think it's Golden Valerum or some other company near Cape Mount. When you're driving to Cape
Yeah,
Mount,
yeah,
they got that.
the old Sam Darby, the old Sam Darby, the
Okay,
old
Sam
Sam
Darby,
Darby.
they make soap. They sell soap locally, and people walk around reselling the soap for less than $1. So it's hard to compete.
Okay.
But if you can package something and once again and get it out of the country now, and you got the proper story behind it, I think it'll go way. I know it'll go much further because I was doing it in 2020. I did it 2020 up to 2022, and I was able to pay the people who were helping me way more than they would have made working for a factory. And
Really?
oh yeah, we
Yes,
sold
sir.
all the soap that we sent to the U.S. because I can literally make 2,000 bars of soap by hand in like 5 hours, and you gotta let it cure for a few weeks, right? But
Yeah.
the skill is there. Like I just
So
need
if you stagger your curing process, then you can
That's
keep
exactly right.
increasing.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right. And then plus it, I mean, you see, okay, so the unique nature of Mr. Brownell here, for those who are listening, this man is an Instagram influencer. So he can do his own marketing, his own advertising, and he can drive his product into the market across a global landscape. Then he's also integrated his fintech on the background for his payment system, okay, on the US side. Then he's also bridged the technological gap back to his own country, where he bought his land, he's invested in 150 acres, and he's segmenting it out to plant specific products that he can then do value addition to feed his, like what he was saying, his own supply chain. So his market is not domestic because he's already identified that there is a local competitor that has already saturated the market with low cost of production to run everybody out. So he said, okay, you know what I'll do? I'll just focus on one segment. I will own my land. I will plant my crops. I will do my local production, but my market is foreign. And I'll get my product into that market, use my Instagram influencing capability to market, to advertise, and I'll feed my customers from California to New York, from Texas to Canada, and I'll just pull my money that way. Strategic planning, effective planning. I wish you all the best. And that's how we Liberians in the diaspora have to play and create the balance. You play between what you experience on the US side, and you come back to your country, you go through the ropes, you graduate from taking bath in the bucket to now sitting in the back of the car on 4G and on the internet and
I can
talking
sit
to
in the front of the
customers.
car. I don't sit in the back like the other guys.
But no, but I mean, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. You know, Abba, you remember what we were talking about on business talk, right? The 10 keys to business success, the planning and the execution, building the team, knowing what you're doing, educating yourself, being the subject matter expert, and just delivering and being on the ground to make it happen and building the gaps, building the bridges, and knowing your market. Very good job. Very good job.
So yes, so
Very good job,
seriously,
Brunel.
you have been an inspiration. It's been great having you on the show. I'm sure there are more things we'll go into, but we try to keep it within the 1 hour 30, 1 hour 45 minutes range. We are at the 1 hour 30 minute mark now, so we'll try to see how we can close down with some of solutions to some of the key problems we're talking about. So one of the key things we mentioned is just the absence of the infrastructure. And this, we've noticed that LEC have been making some moves. I believe They will soon cut the ribbon for a 20 megawatt solar plant, if I'm not mistaken. And Akina, you just mentioned also that whatever energy we produce is not enough. What is the real energy consumption level in Liberia? The purchasing energy, not just to build for building sake, but the energy that's really needed to move the country forward that people will pay for. Where is it at right now? How many megawatts?
You, I think when you got to look at it from two perspectives, right? You've got the Transco CLSG that comes from La Cote d'Ivoire, connects to Liberia, you know that, and goes into Sierra Leone and then into Guinea. So that capacity is there. It's only available if you pay for it. So it's prepaid. You buy it, you pay, you sell it, and you collect your money. You repay it. LEC has this combination of their thermal plant at Bushra Island and, of course, the Mount Coffee Dam. 4 turbines, 22 megawatts, each right around about 88 megawatts. When you add the thermal plant, you get close to 100 megawatts. Okay, but now you've got the 3 cross-border grids. You've got the Ganta grid, you've got the Zwedru grid, and you have the southeastern Plibo grid. But those grids do not tie into Monrovia. So when you look at the whole map, Monrovia is what consumes the greatest capacity. Monrovia has the greatest demand. So Brownell mentioned something about the decentralization of government. One of the things that we really need is also the decentralization of our power generation and distribution grid. That's so important. I think there was a missed opportunity, in my view, my opinion, but I think it was a missed opportunity from the Diaspora Conference point of view. The Local Government Act, the Local Government Act allowed the government to be decentralized. So every county will have its own local government structure, and part of that responsibility of the local government structure is power generation supply. So I think there should have been some segment to attract private investment capital into building solar grids in the various counties to provide local power generation capacity and distribution to attract people like the Mr. Brownells and others who will want to invest into all kinds of different value addition from the agricultural standpoint in the counties. You get my point? Because LEC cannot move power effectively into Bapul and then distribute the grid because it's capital intensive. But if you bring in private investors at the local level in a decentralized way, somebody may pull money and say, you know what, we're going to go and build a 10 megawatt solar farm in power distribution grid in Riverset or in Grand Cruz, so forth and so on. And then that person can capitalize on get a return on their investment, attract local, agriculture, value added addition investment, and create jobs and provide opportunities. So energy from the standpoint right now, because high rainfall, high water level at Mount Coffee, LEC is stable. I'm not criticizing. I'm not condemning. I'm not, castigating anybody. I believe the leadership there, the new leadership, is putting together an effective plan, rolling out their strategies. But the proof is going to be the dry season strategy. Will they be able to maintain the stability during the dry season when the water levels go down, when there's no rain? Because that's when the real test comes into place. And that's when Liberian businesses will have to figure out what do they do. Will LEC be able to be capitalized properly to prepay for energy from La Cote d'Ivoire to bring it in? On that point, Mittal Steel. When you look at Mittal Steel, I don't know whether you know about, but Mittal Steel was given a self-power generating license. Mittal Steel had built their own 107, 110 megawatt HFO heavy fuel oil power plant.
Really?
So they built it. Yes, that's exactly right. They were given their own license. I don't know by whom, but by the previous government. Why would you give the mining company their own license to generate their own power, to add value to it? Because you remember when we were younger, when Lamco and Bongmai were building the pelletizing plant. You remember that? It was a big deal in Liberia. And why was it a big deal? It was a big deal because they were doing a value addition to the iron ore. And when you do value addition to the iron ore now attracts a higher sale price, which gives you higher tax revenue. But in order to achieve that, you need additional energy capacity. So the challenge was that LEC was not viewed as a reliable partner to be reliable enough under the previous leadership because Mittal Steel could not leverage their mining operations with a power company that could not pay their bills and meet their obligations with the Ivorian power company, a CIE that produces the power through Transco. So they made a strategic decision, a business decision, not from the heart, but from their mind, from their heads, to say, you know what, let's go in and let's get our own license to generate our own power plant. So if you go to Google right now and you search for the Mittal Steel HFO power plant, they just commissioned it. It's about 100, I think it's 107 or 110 megawatt power plant that they've built, they've commissioned, and they're gonna run to and operate to provide the power that's needed to run their concentrator or their pelletizing plant. So right there, that power, just like the Firestone hydro power plant, that's their power. They're under no obligations to give any of that capacity away to government of Liberia at all. It's theirs. The city of Buchanan can be in darkness. They're not under any obligation, just like Firestone. The Firestone lines run right through Cotton Tree, but Cotton Tree is in darkness because it's not Firestone's obligation. Unification time is directly across from the airport.
So it's really about policy and how we expect to provide this electricity to our people to change their lives. So
that's exactly right. When you go into the deal, Ava, as you know, Brownell is here. So let's take Mr. Brownell, for example. Brownell, where is your farm? Where is your farm?
Number 2, Grand Bassa.
Okay, number 2 compound. So okay, let's say Mr. Brownell is a multimillionaire. He comes from the US. He wants to build. He wants to buy 300 or 400 acres, what and whatnot. Do a solar, do his power, his soap factory there, and we want to give him more investment incentives. So what can we do? We want economic growth and prosperity along the Grand Bassa Highway. So we need energy for that. So why can't we leverage a relationship with Mr. Brownell that we build a solar power plant, he buys the power from there to feed whatever he wants. We give him investment incentives, and we say, my man, we'll give you investment incentives, invest in the power plant, we will buy the power from you, and we'll redistribute this power to create more jobs and more opportunities, maybe attract additional companies and businesses into that area because the need for power is there. So again, you've got to build a symbiotic relationship between the investor and the country so that the greater good can be met to create jobs and provide more opportunities in country to change and transform the lives of the people. I don't think it's politics. I just think it's just that people just don't understand how these things work together. I think that's what it is. So energy from that perspective, I don't know, LEC has a big task on their hand. The Monrovia grid is not resilient enough because the Monrovia grid is 22 kV. It's not 35 kV. They're running a whole new section between ERWA to Robertsfield. That's the new high growth area, as you know, when you get home. That's the high growth area. Everybody is building in that corridor, so power demand is going to increase. And like you said, population growth within Monrovia is exponentially increasing, but is the power generation capacity increasing proportionally or not? And the only way that can be increased is with additional capacity from Transco CLSG by way of CIE. So until we are able to meet that challenge from the energy perspective that you see in the background here, to industrialize and then transform the country, I think that would be good. Go ahead, Abba. Go ahead, Brownell.
No, yes, those are some of the problems George faced. I don't know what his energy situation is, but if you can just share a practical energy situation and then move into closure, that would be great.
On the farm, we aren't processing anything per se, but the farmhouse that I have, I got a 10 kVA solar system there that's responsible for my submersible pump, my hot water heater, and the pressure pump coming from the reservoir, my refrigerator, TV. I mean, those are light items. They don't take a lot of they take a lot of electricity. But yeah, I mean, I don't even. I'm so deep inside the bush. I don't even have access to LEC. It's not like the farm is on the road, so we're eight
Right.
miles inside. I depend on solar, but at the time when I did the solar, it was extremely expensive. I didn't bring it in from China or anything like that. I purchased it from a Ghanaian guy, and I think the whole system it cost me maybe around $12,000 to $13,000 with the plates and the inverter, the battery, two lithium batteries. So it was expensive. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, and there are models out there that are cheaper. But again, like I said, I'm trying to come and visit you when I come to Liberia. And you say your farm is marked on Google Maps, right? What's the
yeah,
name?
yeah. Yema Village.
Nyema.
Yema. So it is Deinbahn. Yema Village.
Did you say B like
Yeah,
boy?
yeah, yeah. The B it's soft B. So the way how it's spelled is like yeah, let me get that. Sorry. The way how it's spelled is supposed to be the Basa spelling of it. The DY is supposed to be Y for Yema, and the B is a soft B which comes off like an M. So Yema is my great grandmother's name.
You gotta text it. You gotta text it to me. Text that name to
Okay.
me, okay?
Yeah, I'll send it over to you.
All right. And I guess you are your destination. So we really appreciate your time this morning.
I mean, I
Um,
appreciate y'all allowing me to be on the show. I enjoyed myself, and I hope I can definitely
you're always welcome to come
reach that
back and
episode.
keep on doing the great work. A lot of people are depending on your inspiration. Keep providing the information and your conversion to cartoon. I briefly saw one of the cartoons the other day. Is dope. Keep it up. And we really look forward to more young people like you who are enterprising, who are, have standards, want the best for our people to be able to come to Liberia and make that change. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you, George. Thank you. Have a great day.
Have
Thank you so
protect
much for
whatever you're doing.
contributing. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
Bye bye. Yeah, and so
Yeah, that's
again, welcome. I
wonderful
know.
story. Wonderful testimony, man. Great,
Seriously,
great. Yeah, great success story.
I'm excited about young people like that who can, really make some things happen for themselves, for their community, and really impact in the development needle. So a lot of talk has been going on about, what has been happening in the country with regards to change and stuff. From your perspective, is 2 years an adequate turn time frame for anything to really change? Or are expectations too high? I mean, we know there are definite problems in this government that we have identified ourselves and talked about. But are expectations too high, or is change too slow, or is there no change at all? Any thoughts?
It depends on where you want where people want the changes to be, right? So you and I we're business. We focus on business. We don't focus on politics.
Right.
I think from the infrastructure perspective, I think where the greatest change could have been made is in the energy sector. I always lead with that because I believe if you solve the energy sector infrastructure needs, then a lot of things will align themselves economically and then also with job creation, and then there will be a significant reduction in this whole drug use issue that's plaguing and everything and things like that. Because drug use, drug consumption, drug importation, all of those things are tied to unemployment and idleness of the population. That's where it directly tied. So
Yeah.
you solve energy, you attract foreign investment, you attract diaspora investment, job creation takes place, young people get hired, young people get inspired, you improve your security situation, you get more money in country, more money turns hand, the residual effect, more positiveness. Okay. Politics, I don't go into that. I think most in the roads, what can you do with roads in Liberia when it's rainy season? As we all know, we've got 6 months of dry. You do it the most you can during the dry season, and then rainy season, you stop, you hold. Okay. But this sector, it supports education, it supports tourism, it supports industrialization, manufacturing, and everything else. So I think, looking at it from that perspective, I think that's where people have a lot of issues, concerns, and problems and stuff like that with regards to 2 years and not a lot of changes. It's mainly from the infrastructure side because again, it affects everything else.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, like you said, sometimes change, you can look at change from multiple levels, right? You can look at the political change, you can look at the economic change, you can look at the social change, and then being able to calibrate those things in terms of what do they mean, for the people. And sometimes, is it real structure change? Is it just a promise that's not going to be kept? If you look at the focus on the whole reconciliation, uh uh the war crimes court and stuff like that, is that some, and the whole, how should I, what do you call it, the AREPT, whatever that acronym was, where they were going to be able to you know re, recoup some of the like corruption activities that are happening in the past. The asset recovery and the
Asset
property
recovery, yeah.
retrieval, tax fools, whatever happened with that. Whether there's confidence in it that it's gonna happen, because the way it started off, it just seemed like it started off on a bad foot. So that's the whole mindset change. That's something that who have been a strong signal of positive effort from this government. Definitely the war crimes code. But where is the war crimes code going now? With the whole change in the Trump administration, they did affect, what they can do in terms of the potential support they were going to get. Because we, just as a country, it seems like our own money in terms of what we raise from taxes, which is limited, by the way, we don't want to spend it on things that will benefit our citizens. It's hard that's why most of it goes to salary and benefits. It doesn't go to the actual operation of government. We don't see significant public sector infrastructure projects based on the money we raise. A lot of it is loan or grants. So the activities with regards to this whole transparency, and then being able to build a disciplined, professional, public sector has been challenged. The digital thing, basically for the last 2 years, they've been talking about it. It's the president's vision, but implementation has been slow. And then some others on the technology side, like I said earlier, we got problems with how the bids and proposals are being structured, which will feed disadvantages, Liberian firm. Then when we come to the mineral, I believe President Berger said they should review, all the different mineral agreements and stuff like that. And the government should be willing to always, huh?
I think there were a lot. There were too many missed opportunities, in my view. Too many missed opportunities. We missed too many opportunities. I mean, if you look at USAID,
you mean over time?
Over this time, from coming in to where you're talking about a 2-year period, right?
Right.
What you're talking about, yeah. A lot of missed opportunities, because if you look at USAID, for example, right? Okay, so the current U.S. president made his decision along with his cabinet on USAID. USAID had they had two sets of people in Liberia. They had the Liberia domestic staff, right? Local staff, and then you had the foreign staff. You can't do nothing with the foreign staff. But you had a lot of Liberians who were trained, competent Liberians who have worked in that sector for a long time. Where are those people today? Those people, there should have been a strategy. There should have been a plan and a set of strategies in place to kind of help them pull those people into government, to help government to become more efficient and more productive in executing different projects across the country. Because that's good manpower. That's qualified manpower.
So it's a combination of people anticipating these shifts and
that's
what
exactly
the impacts are,
That's why I'm saying missed opportunities.
And where we have capacity, you're right. Those people are trained in a certain way. Many of them were very properly trained, very competent.
Exactly right.
And they can definitely fit back into society and do something. Yes, some of them can go into business for sure. but that the skills and competencies they develop are more along the government line. And it
That's
would have been
exactly right. Yeah.
something that if government had the absorptive capacity to be able to integrate those people back into government. So, it is a
It would have
challenge.
paid dividend. It would have paid dividends for us, Abba, because again, what is the biggest challenge? What is the biggest thing Liberian government always talk about? Capacity building, capacity building, capacity
Yeah.
building. Now here it is. You have a whole pool of hundreds of like competent, experienced Liberians who have been working with a very advanced, efficient, productive system to carry out projects all across the country. What better way to what? To fill in that gap that we had with regard to deficient capacity. I mean, that
Yes,
was just some way
business
to
would have
just
been made.
plug the hole. And it would have, it's an investment. Don't look at how much it's going to cost you. Look at what the returns are going to be over
And
time.
because we don't do the cost benefit analysis most
There
times,
you
we
go.
can
We're back
really
in the same page.
accentuate what are the benefits for any action our government will take, any law they will pass, any policy they will do. And those are things that need to happen. But I think we are at the end of this show. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you for coming back. Again, we express our sincerest, condolences, and really pray for your resilience and your bounce back. So the floor is yours. Do whatever you want to do here to close us up.
Well, thank you so much, Ava. Thank you to everyone, to all the listeners out there by way of Love FM and the OG show that was filling in for Business Talk. So today was a combined show. So again, to all of the well wishers out there, those who participated in my wife's homegoing or celebration of life events here in Houston, Texas, or in Waller, Texas, thank you so much. Thank you for all of the to all of the sympathizers, the well wishers, those who express sincere love to me and my family and the children and everything. And we just thank you for all your prayers in and during this time as we kind of realign ourselves and move forward with life, remembering our mother, my wife, Philetta Phillips. I mean, I miss my wife so much. Going on each day without her is just a new way of living. I know she's here, but not physically, but spiritually. And the girls are doing good. Our son is doing good. All the kids are hanging in there. We're, staying together and growing and riding our bicycles of life. We're pedaling to stay on and we're pedaling to keep going. So thank you to everyone. And hopefully next week, my older brother, Joseph Siafa Phillips II, will be on the show. We'll be talking about rubber, the rubber sector in Liberia, everything about rubber. So if you have a rubber farm or if your parents own a rubber farm or you want to plant rubber in Liberia to participate in the rubber sector, make sure you join the show next week. Joe Phillips will be on here. He's got a lot of rubber experience. He's in Liberia. He's got his own rubber farm as well, worked for Firestone, and he will be chiming in. I will kind of take the background and let Abba lead with all the questions. I don't want anyone to say I'm biased towards my brother. So that Abba buddy, they've grown up together and stuff like that.
Well, I'm about to
thank
say,
you to
what
everybody.
is different now? You got my man too now. So what do we say? No, we ask the hard questions. We want to
We'll
get
ask the
down to
hard
the
questions. Yes.
of this new law. Is it benefiting the
Yeah.
smallholders?
Is it benefit? Yes, that's
What
exactly
are
right.
the opportunities that exist in the sector? What are the challenges? Yeah, one real talk. And maybe if
Well, real talk.
Dr. Hare
Yes.
will have the chance, we'll probably ask Dr. Hare to to participate maybe if you want to.
If you can get very good, if you can get Boyhead, because Boyhead also worked for Firestone as well. He worked he worked in the factory there as a chemist as well. So get Boyhead involved, let him be and Joe be on the show, let them talk about rubber. Let us go high and wide on it, and Rufus will also participate on the show. So that will be for next week. Rufus Devon kind of played a very, very important role in my wife's memorial service on the ground. He did all of the audio, visual, the relaying, and the streaming of the program. So Rufus, to you, thank you so much. I can never thank you enough for all that you've done, all you continue to do. And Love FM is the #1 station. I don't care what anybody says about other stations in Liberia. We love our Love FM and our Rufus Devon content. So thank you again, Ava. Again, to all of those who listened and participated today. Next week we'll have the phone lines open. But today we just want to kind of, highlight this young Liberian who's doing outstanding job, outstanding work, And he's really graduated to a whole different level, Mr. Brownell. So thank you so much. Rufus, over to you. And
It's always good to be.
I close it.
It's always good to be here and doing what we are called to do, because I always say when the minds are developed, the eyes going to appreciate the works of the hands. As we pass on knowledge, when the minds of Liberians get developed, we will now appreciate the infrastructure development that will come after.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We look forward to next week. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your next week, and see you next Saturday. Thank you, audience, for listening. Again, this is a mixture of business talk and the OGs, and hopefully we'll be able to continue in a very positive way as we try to bring information. We try our best to, discuss some of these critical topics that will mean a lot to us as a people and help our development process. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe.
Bye-bye.